right, welcome back. Today at the Freedom Unschool, I've asked Toby to talk about the positions on the field in the game of life. Okay, so we talked about the game of life, which everybody has to play. And now, in order to play the game of life, you got to know the rules and you have to know who the players are. So go for it.
In order to play a game, you have to. Right. So just a tiny review. Right. Last time we talked about the dynamics of a great game. Most people love sports.
I love sports.
And there's a reason why sports is such a huge industry. There's a reason why we like to watch it. And I think one of the big reasons is that it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's other reasons. You get to root for your team and our identity's attached to it. I'm a this fan and I want them to win and all this. But I think another big part that's refreshing about it, that's one, we can relax and be entertained, and we're not the one on the hook. I think that's where the Monday quarterback comes in, right?
Yeah.
But it makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, we watch a sport that we like and we know the rules. And if someone breaks the rules, most of the time, and that of course creates some other entertainment, but someone blows a whistle, stops, there's an adjustment, and we get back to the game.
Well, and the other thing is, if you watch the sports or if you played a sport, when somebody is out of position, it's very clear.
You do, right? And so you can quickly look at the board, or now they've got just incredible dynamic screens on our televisions, and we can see what the score is, we can see how many minutes are left.
Which is what the Monday night quarterback is all about.
Exactly. All right. So a great game has a challenge, and the games that have become our top sports that we play and watch have gotten there because there's something magical about that Goldilocks just right. Not too hot, not too cold, just right challenge. Because if it's too hard, you give up, right? And then that's what happens to people. If they do try some sport, they're like, oh, the heck with that sport. It's too hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if it's too easy, it's boring.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And the best sport you can kind of almost follow it up. You play at higher levels, the game fundamentally doesn't change, but the players start to change the challenge. Okay. There are rules and they're clear. How clear are the rules at your house and at work and in your relationship? Okay? We try to make them, but there isn't a rule book. We can't say time out, let's turn to page, right?
Right. You're out of position.
And we both try to play referee. How would our sports work if everybody had a whistle?
That's funny.
Could you imagine?
It's like a citizen's arrest. I'm calling a personal foul on you.
I'm calling a personal foul on you, right?
Which is what we do.
Yes. Okay. Score. But one of the big things we talked about is with any game, it's voluntary.
Right.
You can say, hey, do you want to play cribbage later? And I can say yes or no. Right?
Right. Except
the game of life.
Right.
If you're on this planet and your heart's still beating, you're in the game.
Yeah.
And if you don't get some of these dynamics that we're going to show you, if you don't understand the rules and you don't know how to, you're not keeping score properly. We talked about that last time, of definition of success, prosperity versus wealth. We talked about what the objective was, that we're all always chasing identity.
Yep.
Right? That's just part of how we're wired.
I'll make one point here.
Sure.
Just because you think you're sitting on the bench or you can't play, you're still playing.
Yeah,
that's what you mean.
You can't get out of this game.
Exactly.
You can't.
Exactly.
You can try to avoid the game for sure, just like you can avoid, homework or having to talk about something difficult at home or at work. But eventually, it will bite you so hard in the butt because of the procrastination. Right. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Now, so. Fair enough. These are the dynamics that make a game great. And life certainly possesses these, except for the voluntary part.
Yeah.
You can engage in a wide variety of ways. You can find the appropriate level of challenge. You can graduate to higher levels of challenge. There actually are rules, and we're going to show them to you. Believe me, there are rules.
Oh, yeah.
And there is a score. But this is where the confusion lies.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Because if we're playing to the wrong objective, even if we think we're playing well, you might not like where you land up. In fact,
Right.
if we look at us outside, we don't.
Right.
All right, but so now you ask, how do you play?
Right.
Okay, and you wanted to talk about positions today.
Right.
So let's talk about, we found a good game, we want to play it. We need to be able to see the game, right? You know, football, soccer, it doesn't do a lot for me.
No.
But I've got some friends that are just, they love the game, and I have sat with them and tried to watch it. It's boring for me because I don't know what's going on.
Right.
Okay?
But what game do you love?
But for instance, people that are watching it that know it, they're cheering and yelling and no and more and this, and because they can see.
Right.
All right?
Right. Right.
You got to know the rules, because if you just have me jump onto the soccer field, I'll be offsides, or I'll be using my hands, or I'll be pushing someone.
Well, why don't you talk about a game that you love, which is hunting?
Well, right.
Right?
Yeah.
You love hunting. Okay.
I do.
So you know the game, especially
Big game, especially.
Big game.
You got to first see
Elk.
game. If you do not find big game, you can't shoot big game.
big. You love elk hunting with your
Archery.
Archery.
Yes. Right.
archery.
Yeah, well, so you got to know the fish and game rules,
Oh
but
my
you also need to
gosh.
understand how elk behave.
Yes.
Right. So, okay, you can
How
study
many
these
books
things.
have you read?
A couple.
And yeah.
Right.
And how many times have you been out hunting?
You need to know
A
your
lot.
position in any kind of a game. And actually, just to take your hunting metaphor, there are actually quite a few different ways to hunt that are very, perhaps even equally successful, or some maybe, but depending upon your, how you like to hunt, how you know, what kind of shape are you in, all these different dynamics,
Yeah.
you're going to play the game differently.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I'm 5'8". If I play basketball, I'm not going to spend a lot of time under the hoop if I'm
Right.
playing with people that are 6'5".
Right.
'Cause that's-
Right. Exactly.
Okay, not where I can make a contribution.
Right.
Right? If I can do it, but it's gonna be very frustrating.
Right.
Okay. And then of course, so you got to know your position. You got to practice like heck, and you need feedback.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you don't have that feedback mechanism, you're not going to know what to change or to move. And that's where a coach comes in. That's where training partners come in. That's where conversations in tools like this come in. Okay.
Yep.
How to play the game. So the one you want to focus on today right now is knowing your position. And we're going to go through something you've never seen before.
Trust me.
There are,
one's
believe it
talking
or
about
not, 4 biologically hardwired positions in the game of life. You were born to be one of them. And our lack of knowing this explicitly, people that have worked hard and diligently have, by hook or by crook, moved more into their zone than
Kind of
not.
innately figured it
Innately.
out. Yep.
But there's a huge difference between kind of accidentally doing what I do right and doing it on purpose. Because when
Right.
it's purposeful, I can get up and I can, with perfect certainty, know I know how I play best.
And that's a great point, because as you were saying, some people kind of innately do it, but they don't know for sure, so they question and doubt themselves in some ways, or they try to focus on their weaknesses versus their strengths. That's a big difference.
Yes.
Because your position on the court is your strength.
This
Period.
sounds so obvious, but when you go through this, and please don't turn this off. Watch this. This will do things for your marriage, for your parenting, for your work. So many things in life will start to make sense at a level that you didn't think was possible, perhaps.
I'm gonna say, starting with, because we're talking about relationships, what has it done for you and I?
It's unbelievable.
It's ridiculous.
It's unbelievable. As we get into this, we'll share the pattern that we specifically have as husband and wife, and we'll also be able to tell you stories about some of our siblings and our family members, and the amount of relief that came as a result of understanding. Oh my God.
Had a conversation
They are
with
hardwired this
our
way.
daughter this morning before she went to school, and it was priceless in her ability to understand the game of life that's happening in her classroom.
This is a big deal, okay? If your children are older, then you can remember back to this, but you'll still have the same situation, whether it's with your own sibling, your spouse, your kids, one of their friends, their spouse. we have breakdowns as human beings. We have something, we're all going after our identity, and something happens and it looks and feels like a threat to our identity.
Right.
It may be, it may not be, it may be just because I misunderstood what you meant. But in that moment, I'm feeling vulnerable, I'm feeling weak, I'm feeling scared, I'm feeling like you're gonna completely upset where I thought I was going. Now I don't know where to go. I mean, this is life. This is what we were dealing with from the moment we get up, and whether you struggle with the alarm clock or not, all the way to the moment that you try to fall asleep, and including trying to fall asleep.
And is this all based on our biological position in life?
It is 100%. You are trying to reconcile this 24/7.
24/7, 365.
And it's this. So one of the things that I want to say about this is not personality. We've all played with those little tests you do online. I like horses, but not cats. Right? No.
Am I an extrovert or an introvert?
Yeah, it's
has
not.
nothing to do with that.
No. You can find all the different kinds of permutations of personality characteristics in any of the positions. Got nothing to do with it.
They're fun.
They're fun.
But
this,
they're not that helpful.
You could argue that you can adjust your personality. I can try to be more extroverted or be more introverted. I can try to be softer. I can try to be harder.
So when you've taken those tests, have you manipulated it in such a way that you want to believe something about yourself?
I think
and you respond in such a way?
When people, very often, this is the tricky part about making those tests. If you know what's up, and you have an agenda in your mind of how you want to see yourself, whether you're actually that way or not, you'll keep checking boxes that you feel are what you want to be. Okay. But they may not be how you really are.
So explain to them, or us, or me, the difference between that. Because it's a huge difference.
So the difference between what's this?
Between this biological position and a personality. Because it's only everything.
So in the last session I talked about, we all have this lizard brain. You've all heard about it, right?
It's the medulla
yeah, right.
You don't know what I'm talking about.
Right. And we are hardwired to be concerned about whether or not I'm seen as valuable to my tribe.
Right.
Does my wife think I'm valuable?
Right.
Or is she so frustrated with me and you can't do anything right? That's not a good feeling. If she's my biggest fan and my champion, I feel awesome. How do my children feel? How do my coworkers feel? How do my customers feel?
Right.
How do my friends, whatever. We all have this jury of peers somewhere up in our brain that's connected to that lizard brain, and they're all going like this all day long.
Right.
And here's the interesting thing. Where our lizard brain, that's not that smart, its only job is to keep us alive.
Right.
Okay? It's not interested in your success. It's not in all the satisfaction kind of ways of life.
Right.
It's literally concerned about heartbeat, no heartbeat.
Right.
Okay?
Do I eat or not eat?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's not a good guide.
Exactly.
Very often it is a horrible guide.
Which is why that's different than personality.
Yes, because it's selfish.
Right.
And it's hardwired, and you can't get rid of it.
Right.
You can only work with it.
And you can't rationalize it.
There's a whole thing, a bunch of things like that. So
I tried.
Our concern is for identity, to be seen as valuable to others. And this biological desire it's hardwired.
Wired.
Okay,
Literally.
I've said it. I've said it's hardwired. And
literally.
There are 4 variations of this, and there's a very good reason why there are 4. Mm-hmm. There are 4 because it took 4 for humanity to go from naked, clawless, small teeth, slow, delicious food for much bigger, scarier animals.
Right.
To where we are today.
Yeah.
Had that not existed, had we not gotten so good at coordinating with each other, we'd be dead. 6 or 7 people with a spear are a formidable force, even against a large, scary animal.
Right.
Like, seriously.
Right. 1
person, a snack.
Right.
Okay? That came with its own skewer. You just... So
Barbecue sauce.
yeah, exactly. So we have to figure out how to coordinate it. So little story about that. Is that what you want me to talk about the story about why there's 4?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So if you think about it, everything we do starts with someone saying, "Hey, I've got an idea. Go west, young man." Right? In fact, the Lewis and Clark expedition happened because Thomas Jefferson foresaw the need, the opportunity to go claim all of this land to the west.
Right.
Right? We didn't know really what was out there with any degree of certainty. We didn't need it, right? Not yet.
Not yet.
But he had the brilliance of foreseeing that if we got all of that, we could be a country that doesn't have all these border issues.
Right.
He came from Europe where everything's this jigsaw puzzle.
Right.
And thanks to that vision, the United States, I mean, we got Canada on the north and Mexico on the south, but for the most part, we have this perfect spot, and then we're separated by the Atlantic and Pacific.
Right.
That is not a small detail.
Right.
If anyone has studied history and looked at wars and how all of these things worked, the United States has not had a modern border dispute. I mean, well,
Yeah, we do.
No, we're not disputing over where the border is.
Well, that's true.
We're disputing whether or not to close it.
Right.
Okay.
That's true.
So you've got individuals that are hardwired to be able to give certainty.
Yes. Declare.
Okay, and we're going to go into these in great detail in the forthcoming videos.
Yes.
I'm just going to give you, Shelley asked me to give you a little bit of a walkthrough. Okay, so everything starts with this declaration, and Thomas Jefferson had to go to Congress and lobby for a budget for that expedition. And at the time, I believe it was only something like $9,000. But at the time, that was a really big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people, naysayers. Come
Yes.
on. We don't need to do that. That's a
Right.
lot of money.
Everything's fine just the
right?
way it is.
And what I want you to see about all progress in life, all fun experiences with your family, anything like that, it starts with someone declaring something out of nothing.
Yes.
You're all sitting around, people are bored, and there's that person that says, now's time, let's go, let's move, let's go do this, whatever.
And it's before all the water's gone or the game is gone.
That's when it should happen.
Yes.
That's when it should happen.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a declaration without evidence of proof.
Right.
Okay. And you will naturally get resistance. So the people that are north have a biological advantage to being able to hold firm under incredible assault
Yep.
and stick to the principles.
Yes.
Thomas Jefferson was such a person.
Yes.
There are other
Thank God.
very remarkable people throughout history, and I look forward to sharing those people with you who, thank God for them, had that ability to give certainty to people to say, follow me.
Well, and there's obviously people now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. The next step is, okay, great, there's been this ignition, but where? How? Okay.
Who's going to go?
Who's going to go?
Yeah.
And how, so it turned out to be Lewis and Clark. Okay. The biological makeup of that team, and that was a bigger team, so I'm sure they had more of the positions.
Well, I would say Lewis or Clark is,
100%.
but I think it was Lewis is actually there. But we'll get to that.
Well, yes, we will. They have this desire for freedom, to be able to go out and explore possibilities, to build new relationships, to see new areas.
To hunt.
To hunt, literally, okay? Yes. And so they are this recon group. They're this exploratory sort of group that goes out and sees possibilities. That's what they did. They went across knowing they were going to have to run into Indians and grizzly bears and mountains and streams and gorges and canyons.
Yeah, they're the ones at the starting line that are just like, let me go.
Yes. Okay. They went out and did that. They came back. They, thanks to, I believe it was Clark, they had done the surveying and so forth.
Yes, I think you're right, yeah.
And now we get to the south position. South is all about stability.
The rocks.
Replication.
Right.
Okay? That's great. You guys went off and did this crazy expedition and you came back alive. Thumbs up.
Right.
But what's that going to do for the rest of us?
Right.
Are we all going to go off and just do this random exploration and see how many people live through it? Well, of course not. With the benefit of that new information and intelligence that we have, they were able to, carve a path. Like, this is a good route. Still probably not even the best route, but a very, very good route.
Organized. Get things together.
So let's go back. Let's start cutting down trees. Let's pull stumps. Let's make a wagon trail.
Right.
So that this can be replicated for the sake of everyone else.
Exactly.
It's not enough to declare the iPhone and to look into possibilities. And then guess what? We've got this idea for an iPhone, and we think we could actually make them. It's like, yeah, and
Right. Right.
when are you going to make them and put them on a shelf?
Right.
Henry Ford with the automobile went through all of this messy experimentation. There were over 1,800 teams exploring how to build a car. That was this energy.
Yes.
Okay? And it wasn't until they succeeded that they then went on and had a conversation about, what if we could make a lot of these? What if we get the price down? What if we could get the quality up? Okay? There's your assembly line, people.
Yep.
Okay?
Exactly. Yep.
These are your doers. And when I say doer, I mean the replication people who it's like, once it's figured out, get out of my way. No one stacks wood like me.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
a self.
Yep.
And I don't just mean menial things. Any kind of a task. It could be scientific and medical. It could be engineering or building or whatever. But once that's understood and the map is clear and we know how to get the resources,
Watch out.
this group is so good at being able to kind of put that all together into a system, into an alliance of a team that gets it done.
Right.
The final, and it's biological hardwired to stability. These folks want stability.
Yes.
In fact, they resist change a lot because their biological disposition is to maintain stability. And what you'll see with all these positions is we're all a two-edged sword.
Right.
I said North was good at giving certainty and about not backing down. Well, that can be good when it's for the good of the tribe and when they're right, but when they're wrong and when it's for the sake of themselves, it can look like a right fight. It can look like a dictator, a tyrant.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Can go the other way.
And we're going to go into full detail
We
and
will.
more.
East, their strength is that they are inclined to go off where there are no lines.
Yes.
They want a coloring.
They thrive
they want
on
a
it.
coloring book without lines.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But which can be great if you say there's the goalposts. Go kind of sort of figure that out, but do it your way. That's the kind of challenge East is going to respond to well, and that's where they thrive.
Right.
But when they turn inward and become selfish, they're the people that are trying to get out of work. They're taking off. They're daydreaming. They're zoo biscuits,
Right.
as you say, right?
That's my favorite.
There goes a butterfly.
What? Squirrel.
But okay. South, again, like I said, no one gets stuff done like a South, but they can also be tricky to get going because they like their groove. They like things the way they are.
Right.
Okay. Final position, West. The final part of this cycle and sequence has to do with security. What if we went through all this and we didn't learn a darn thing?
Well, and nobody was recording it.
No one wrote it down. How did we get there? Wait, that's great. You guys came back.
I thought we took a left over there.
Yeah, yeah, gosh.
Louis, what happened?
Yeah, exactly. Right? What good would that expedition
Or
have
Clark.
been if no one recorded anything?
Right. Or, I mean,
Can you do it again?
Amount of,
No.
I think it was Clark that did all the recording of the vegetation, where
Yes.
the rivers were, the mapping, the maps that they built was.
Think of the benefit of that when you went to go on the second lap, the 10th lap, right?
Right.
And so our Wests are about our record keeping, our standards, our rules, right?
Yes, so valuable.
One way to think about this from a business perspective is that North is like your marketing. This is the idea. This is the vision and the strategy. East is like the sales. Oh, you've got this great thing.
I'll go talk
Let
to
me go
everybody.
Let me go talk to people about it.
Yeah.
Let me show it to them.
Yeah.
Right? That's sales. South is like, oh, I'll build them.
Right.
And West is like, I'll take care of all the administration. I'll make sure that we're doing this efficiently. I'll make sure we're collecting the revenue, we're paying the bills, we're staying in compliance with the regulations.
Right.
Right? Now, there's a lot of common questions, concerns, objections that start to arise about this. And I want to address the objections because...
Well, can you first talk about, because you were talking about that these people, it's the dynamic between the two offense, defense, because we're talking about a game.
Okay.
And I find this so helpful for me.
This is, as you know, we can go down a rabbit hole, so I want to make sure I don't get too deep on this version.
But just the basic.
I'll do offense, defense.
Yeah.
So you heard us tell the story about the Lewis and Clark expedition. I kind of alluded to building cars, the iPhone, right? There's this hemispheric divide. Sorry. This is offense. This is defense.
Mm-hmm. Here, I'll write it for you.
This is creation. This is preservation. Okay? This is defense down here. Creation is up in there. Preservation's over here. Think about the car, right? When they were first trying to figure out cars, and there were 1,800 teams, more than that, probably in barns, garages around the country, around the world indeed. And they're all trying to take this combustion engine thing, maybe figure out axles and wheels and steering and seating and chassis.
Prototype.
Right, they're prototyping, they're experimenting.
Right.
The first people that owned cars had to be very wealthy because they had to have a mechanic on hand.
Right.
Because they broke a lot.
Right.
Right? It was not a scalable idea yet.
Right.
Right? So no one was worried about efficiency here. It was a wealthy person that's like, I don't care if this is efficient. It's new. It's exciting. It gives me identity. It gives me freedom to get around. It's better than the horse.
Right.
All right? Or whatever. Like you all know people, and maybe you've been at one of times, where you go and buy a gadget that's leading edge. And it's like...
It doesn't really
it can't,
work.
The early prototypes don't deliver the way you hope. They break, they're replaced quickly. But some people, and I think we're all that person in some area maybe.
Yeah,
in our favorite thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't about efficiency, it was about effectiveness. They were much more concerned is, can we build an automobile that just works?
So this is effectiveness. Does it work? Does
Yes.
the prototype even
And when
make
you're
sense?
dealing with human beings that are biologically hardwired on this side, they're going to be far more concerned about effectiveness than they are efficiency.
Ideas,
So let's go back to
possibilities.
the team thing and your positions.
Right. Good point.
You know, that's where their inclination is going to go. Now, we can all, knowing this, kind of sort of censor ourselves, right? I'm the CEO of a company. I can see the playing field. I know my particular position on the field. And I can know when it's time for me to sit on the bench.
Exactly.
It's like, my job is really what as a CEO, is I move to the center and I conduct. It's time for West, more West. Okay, that's good, West. Okay, South, right? That's how we as parents also can lead our families.
And our relationships, this is everything.
Yeah.
I mean, we're tendency to be attracted to the opposite, correct?
Absolutely.
Because it balances out, just like they say opposites attract.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So this is why I thought this was important, because if you have offense, you need defense. And you're in a position of a relationship.
Yes. Now, on the defensive side, it starts to turn towards efficiency. Hey, we've got the car figured out. We've made one very good copy. Now it's about making multiple copies. So that's kind of more the South is like the replication. But East is watching it and saying, yeah, but
West
is watching and they've got the stopwatch. Like, well, what if we reorganize this process? We could get it done in 2 minutes instead of 12.
Right.
Right? And what if we could source our parts from over here? And what if we redesign that so that there's a million things. Anyone that's been an engineer that lives on this side is, kind of laughing at the simplicity of the things that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But that's That's the focus.
So this is efficiency.
Efficiency.
Right.
Right? Now, as Shelley pointed out, 85% of couples, and it might be higher,
Might be higher.
and someday I'm looking forward to when to running a survey when we know we've got a lot of people that can and have accurately self-identified their position. I can't wait to test this more accurately
I know, me too.
with a significant amount of data.
Me too.
But I can tell you from, a lot of years in dealing with hundreds, probably over thousands of people and teaching this by now, that's how it is. You tend to have married a person who's directly opposite you. So
Because why? You need them to survive.
you do. It's a
Literally.
it's a survival
It's a survival
instinct.
instinct.
It's a survival instinct.
Yeah.
So that means there's basically only 4 couples.
Right.
Okay? So you can have a north male with a south female, or a north female with a south male. You can have an east male with a west female, and a west male with an east female. Some of you are saying you're still trying to get a hold of this. You drop Shelley and I into a collection of parents. It can be at the soccer field, at the school event. The girls,
man.
we already know when we meet their friend what we're going to find with parents. And I don't mean this in a disrespectful way.
No, it's so beneficial.
It's
so
so
helpful.
beneficial, because when you know what someone's biological concern is, and they don't yet, you can speak to their concern and you can connect with them. And if you do need to do more than just social chit chat, like you need to actually get something done, you can figure out very quickly whether you're going to be able to do it with this person. You can figure out, if you can do it with them, how to speak with them, and how to because you're the person in the group who's got greater control of your biology. Right. And I would argue that one of the key things, like if you're thinking of your favorite sport, and if you were to play make a fantasy team, and you actually ran a sports team, and you're thinking, all right, we need to put the best people on our team. You want a variety of the positions, but you're also looking for attributes, right? Do you want the best athlete that's a social train wreck, right? With no self-discipline?
Right.
Or do you want someone who's a very good athlete, but an insane work ethic? They're trustworthy. They behave off the field. They're a good teammate.
Yeah, and
okay?
I can't even tell you what this will do if you're not married yet and you're looking for a mate.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah. We have, I'm sure like many of you, seen people get married and fall in love because of these complementary opposites, right?
And then
the East person meets the West person, they fall in love. The East is like, wow, you ground me. The West person's like, you make my life more interesting. And in the early days before mortgages and careers and children, that just seems so awesome.
you complete me.
Yeah. 10 years later with children and a mortgage, and like, you're suffocating me. You're all
over the place.
You're all over the place. But it's funny, but it's also sad.
Yeah,
We've
it's
watched couples, their marriages completely fall apart. We've watched them get divorced.
Which is why we're so excited about sharing this.
And it's heartbreaking.
It is.
And the reason I brought that up is because I was just alluding to this one character aspect, why this is what brings this all home, is learning to control and to harness our biological concern. You have it, and you're not alone, and there's only 4.
There's really only 4 people in the world.
Basically, right? We're all unique in a lot of very interesting ways.
Right, absolutely.
But when you understand this biological concern, you can predict how someone's going to behave when they're backed in the corner, and you can decide who to work with and how to work with them, because what you want to ultimately do is train yourself to harness your biology, to raise your children to understand and harness their biology, and to go find other people who can do the same thing. Because believe me, the people you want to spend time with in life are the ones who can control their biology.
Right. And what you want to learn to do is to observe yourself first.
Yes.
And this takes a lot of time. So we really, really need to be patient first before you go out and say, oh, well, I'm this and this. So that's what we're going to get into next. So we're going to go deep into self-observation and all the positions very thoroughly, so that you're able to observe yourself.
Well, some
first.
people probably already figured out where they're at and they're right.
Right.
But many people, when they go through this, and we're going to have some other tools for you, not a diagnostic test.
No.
We've experimented with that, and thus far those experiments have not succeeded.
Right. And I think it's because being truthful with yourself is kind of hard.
I'm not giving up in the long run.
Right.
But I'll tell you that we're 1,800 car manufacturers in a garage at that stage. We've got
right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's probably possible. So at any rate, we're going to have tools, and in the next videos, we're going to lay out in much greater detail what a north looks like from the perspective of a north.
Right.
Right? Same thing for east and south and west.
Right.
And then we're going to show you how they relate with each other. We're going to show you what our instincts are when we're being good boys and girls and when we're being bad boys and girls. And when we're being bad, it's like we're being sinful. We're giving into the sort of the desires of selfishness, narcissism, greed, fear.
Well, it's kind of like when people say the two little people sitting on
100%.
your shoulder. It's your friend that's making choices that's best for you.
Yes.
And then there's the evil one going, actually, let's try this.
When we first taught this to our daughters, they were quite a bit younger than they are now. They were watching this really popular children's show, How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah, oh, that's
And so rather than talking about it a lizard, we talked about it as if it was your dragon. And you could have your friend dragon or your foe dragon, right? And
they loved that.
They loved that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that. I mean, this is a beast that you can fly on the back of and conquer the world. And it's also a beast that can devour you.
Pretty much.
And it's
the reality.
exactly what happens.
All right.
Yeah. You want me to stop there?
Well, we can go on and on and on, obviously.
Yeah.
And we have so much to share. We're so excited about this. So please stay tuned to the Freedom Unschool, and we'll be back with North.
You got it.